What's going on, everybody? Hope everybody's having a good evening. It's late here where I'm at. I've been getting after it all day, and I've been thinking about doing this video for a while, and a few different people have asked some questions that kind of I felt like I could cover here in this video, while also answering the second most question, which is who do you get work from, and how do you go about basically starting this preservation company. So what I want to do is I want to go through 9 companies. These are 9 companies that I've done work for, or either I'm doing work for. I have a experience-based opinion, and it's exactly that. It's an opinion. Some of you guys may have different opinion about some of these companies. This is just strictly my opinion, and it's based off of my experience with them. I think some of the things will be helpful. Can go over a few different things that I look for when I'm onboarding with a company, and maybe get some people pointed in the right direction, and maybe help you guys out, especially you guys that are just getting started and looking for something. I'm going to rank these companies from 9th to 1st in that order, based off of payment time, functionality from a field to submission standpoint. So that's from actually doing the work, the whole process, all the way until it gets submitted to them. Quantity of work, so their portfolio, what they've got in this area, how much work they've got to offer, and then the onboarding requirements and the time that it takes to onboard with them. So obviously the most important part to any business, whether you're cutting grass, hanging sheetrock, building spaceships, I don't think it matters what you do. The number one thing is money. Money. And one of the things about this industry that is unique to almost all other industries, with the exception of maybe lawn care, is people are willing to do stuff for significantly less than what they should be doing it for. And as a whole, I think it hurts all of us, especially when a little bit of education and some looking into stuff and some kind of just a little bit of standing your ground and knowing your worth could really put an end to a lot of that. Some of these companies pay better than others, and it's just that simple. The ones that don't pay good, don't work for them, or negotiate your pricing ahead of time. So I don't want to go into detail about all that, although I will touch on every company and kind of how I feel about them, while we're going over them. But to me, one of the most common things that everybody speaks about on some of these Facebook groups and all this, that, and the other is to pay. So pay is number one on here, and it's number one for a reason. So let's get into this. So on this other screen over here, I have them all listed, and I'm just going to copy and bring them over and paste them. So number one is not that. I guess I could just type it, not be so lazy. I don't want to type it. I want to copy it. First Allegiance. This was actually the very first company I ever did work for, and they were extremely difficult to work with, and it did not take me very long to realize that I did not want to do any work for them. Payment. They paid generally what I was asking for, but it took them an astronomical amount of time to pay me. I think in some instances it was all the way up to 6 months, which was very aggravating, especially, when they tell you one thing and they do another. So they get a 1 star for sure on payment and time. Functionality from field to submission, it was absolute misery. Their system I did not like. It was cumbersome. It was slow. It was all the things that I did not need in my life, as far as working all day and trying to do stuff in the evening and getting stuff submitted and getting it done right. Quantity of work. They did not really have a whole lot of quantity where I'm at. It was real hit and miss. They would just, randomly call wanting you to go do this, that, and the other. And what they did have was mostly grass cuts, which obviously you don't make any money cutting grass. So, it wasn't something I was really super eager to continue my involvement with them. The onboarding requirements and time were absolute bare minimum. I mean, I'm pretty sure they reached out to me, made a pretty simple pitch. I sent in a W-9, a little bit of paperwork, and that was it. I'm not even sure they asked for general liability or an auto policy or anything. I am pretty sure they didn't. I mean, it was really a fly-by-the-seat type deal with them. Number 8 is Safeguard. This is everyone's favorite. Tons of people work for Safeguard. I don't really understand how tons of people work for Safeguard, because from a payment standpoint, they pay the bare minimum, and I mean like really, really low prices, to the point to where there was no way for me to do any of it and turn a profit. They did pay pretty quick, but if you spend $100 to get paid $90 pretty quick, then it's meaningless. So that never really played a huge factor in me, especially my decision making. I was pretty much convinced that they just didn't pay enough, and there was no way a relationship with me and them could move forward. Functionality from field to submission. It was pretty cumbersome too. I didn't really, they're one of the companies, kind of like First Allegiance. They have their own portal, their own system, which is extremely aggravating. And you have to learn it. Like I said, it's cumbersome, it's slow. And they want far more details than they're willing to pay to receive. Quantity of work. They did have a lot of work. That was one thing about it. They had a lot of work, but like I said, they was just, if you're not making money on one grass cut, you're not making money on 20 grass cuts. If you're not making money on one approval, you're not making money on 20 approvals. I mean, everything they did was just the absolute bare minimum, as far as from a price standpoint. It made it almost impossible to do business with them. Onboarding requirements and time. They actually do have onboarding requirements. I can't remember if they require E&O, but they definitely required general liability, and they definitely required an auto policy and a background check. So Safeguard's coming in at number 8, and honestly, it's a toss-up between them and First Allegiance, but I did not really enjoy my time with either one of them. Number 7, MSI, Mortgage Specialist International. This company has the potential, in my opinion, to be a top 3 company. I've told them that. I've talked to them about that. The pay is, it's good. It's HUD minus 25. The pay is where you want it to be. The problem is you can't get paid. They say that they're net 60, but really they're net 90, net 120. I mean, they're net whatever they want to be. I quit doing business. So I worked with them a long time, and gosh, I wish they would have been better, because I enjoyed it. Their system was pretty easy to use. They're like Safeguard and First Allegiance. They have their own portal. It was pretty easy to use, but from a payment standpoint, they paid a fair price, but it took forever. So if you need money in 2 weeks and you need to be able to do the work and see a return in a pretty quick time period, this is not the company for you. I will say that I did eventually get paid every single penny they owe me, but it did take forever. It wasn't the it taken forever part. It was just the amount of trouble I had to go through to follow up with them to get the money, in addition to it taking forever. If they would just say their net 120 and that be that, and then I didn't have to worry about it, and I knew that they would pay me, it's just going to be a long time, it might be a different situation. But I'd have to follow up and do this, that, and the other, and then they'd want it sent like this, and they'd want all this, and it was just a lot of time spent doing their job for them, in my opinion. So I did not like that. Functionality from field to submission, they were pretty good. You uploaded your pictures to their portal. Their portal was pretty easy to use. Didn't take me real long to learn how to use it and kind of get to where I could just go through it and pretty quickly. So I did not mind their portal. Quantity of work, they didn't have a whole ton of work, but they had work in the right places. I'm sure you guys know, I mean, if you cover an area, you have some places that are obviously closer to you, or more of like a suburban area where there's a little bit more in a condensed area rather than out in the rural. So, I mean, they didn't have a whole bunch of stuff, but where they did have stuff was in a good place, and it fit real good with what we do and the way that we operate. But, so they didn't have a whole lot of work, but the work they did have was in a good place and generally was pretty profitable. Onboarding requirements and time. They did not require errors and omissions, but they did require GL as well as an auto policy and a background check. It didn't take all that much time to onboard with them. Because I think they were looking for somebody when they onboarded me. They were looking for somebody in my area. So maybe if they would have had somebody in my area, it would have been a different situation, but I think it was pretty quick for me. So they come in at number 7. Number 6, Northside Management. This company, I'm not even sure how I ended up getting involved with them, to be honest with you. What we were doing originally with Northside Management was like on-site repairs for like tenant-occupied properties. They'd have faucet leaks, clogged toilets, HVAC not working, blah, 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 all this, that, and the other. And they would give you a do not exceed, a D&E. And they would basically say, can you go out here and fix this for $250 or whatever? And you would accept it, you go do it, and generally it would be pretty easy. You change a P-trap, make, $250, you're in and out. Easy peasy. I did it like that with them for a really long time, and I kind of thought that was the gist of it. And they pay quick, like within a week, 2 weeks. So from a payment standpoint, on that part of it, they paid okay, and they definitely paid pretty quick. From a property preservation standpoint, it was hot garbage. They were very, very cheap. Their prices were extremely, extremely cheap. But again, the time that they paid you was quick. So they didn't pay very much money for the allowable type stuff, which, as I said earlier, is a pretty good indicator of the way they are, from bottom to top. So they didn't pay a lot. And like I said, doing the tenant occupied stuff really become kind of like an inconvenience, because they'll call you they would call at 11 o'clock at night, and they're like, can you get out there right now? And I'm like, well, no, man, I can't get out there right now. And they're like, well, can you get out there tomorrow? Well, no, because I made the schedule for tomorrow about 3 hours ago, and I'm not going to change it. And then they would be scrambling to find somebody else. And I don't want to do business that way. If I'm going to be an on-the-call guy, I want to be getting paid some money. So the payment was okay. The property preservation payment was low. They paid pretty quick. Functionality from a field to submission was extremely easy. Probably one of the easiest. 5-6 questions, a couple picks in and out. Done. On the tenant occupied maintenance stuff. On the Property preservation side, it was extremely cumbersome, and I didn't do it long enough to like really become good at it. So my opinion is just based off of a 6 or 7 orders that I put through, but I did not like it. It was kind of hard to use. And also I didn't have any desire to learn how to do it because their prices were so cheap. I knew I wasn't going to be doing business with them for a while, but they were easy to talk to, and they were, good people to talk to, good people to work with. I don't really have anything bad to say about the company. Their prices were too low. I would not recommend doing the things that we do for the prices that they want you to do them for. So, number 5, MCS, Mortgage Contractor Services. Payment and time. They don't pay good. I've said this, and honestly, I had no way. It was just kind of a hunch, but I'm pretty sure it's true. I think they take 25% off the top, and then they take another 27%. So you're really getting 48%. The grass cuts are among the lowest of any that I've ever done for an extended period of time. They were kind of, for me, like one of those filler companies where we just kind of did the stuff hoping that one day they would get better. So they paid below where I felt like they should. Now, they used to pay really, really quick. I think recently, maybe a year or 2 years ago, they went to like a net 30 type deal. So they pay everything, every 30 days. Which was okay. I mean, that's still good, and it's still better than a lot of the other people. So the payment was low. The time that they pay it in was okay. Functionality from field to submission. I hated MCS. One huge problem. I use a Mac, and you can't run, what's it called? Vendor 360 or MCS 3, whatever it's called. You can't run that program on a Mac. You have to have a Windows. So I had to get another computer to put beside my Mac, and so I would do everything on my Mac except for the MCS stuff, which I would do on Windows. So I was constantly going back and forth, and I didn't really enjoy that. Their system was very, very cumbersome as well. And their servers were god-awful. I mean, you would be in the middle of submitting something, and they have one of them systems where like you have to answer all the questions before you can actually save it, and you would have 7 questions answered, and you'd be on your 8th, and then you'd get the little spinning thing up here where their program's not working, and none of that stuff would save, and you'd have to start over. So of all of them, there's never been one system that I've hated more than MCS's. I thought that it took way, 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 way too much time. In addition to you not getting really paid enough in the field and then coming home and having to wrestle with that thing all night, I absolutely hated it. And that ultimately ended up being the reason that we parted ways. Quantity of work, boatloads. They got a lot of work. I mean, that's just all there is to it. They probably have more where I'm at than any other company. But they also do a lot with trailers and mobile homes. Most of theirs, at least for me, was mobile homes. And gosh, man, they were just always awful. And, and they're aggravating to work on. I mean, if you work on stuff, mobile homes kind of suck to work on. So they had a lot of stuff. The quality of the stuff that they had, I thought was, kind of sucked. But, they did have a lot of it, and it's hard to make money with them. They don't pay great, but they do pay. That's one thing about MCS. They will pay you every red penny they owe you. So no knock on them there. Honestly, the only 2 complaints I have is I think they should pay a little bit more, and they need a better system. Onboarding requirements and time. They take a long time to onboard. I mean, it took 6-7 months to onboard with them. Lots of hoops and bounds and all this type of stuff that you have to go through, and it's just really not worth it. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of work to onboard with them. And then if there's someone in your area, then you come on as like a tertiary, and then you pretty much just get the stuff that nobody else wants. And you kind of have to pander to that for a really long time until somebody gets mad and quits or leaves and goes out of business, whatever the case may be, and then you get to step in and do it. So it took a long time to onboard with them. So, I mean, but other than the onboarding, and they do require errors and omissions. So they require errors and omissions, general liability, a background check, and an auto policy. So they have a lot of requirements from an onboarding standpoint. They don't pay all that great. They do pay everything they owe you in a timely manner. But their system to submit the stuff is absolutely god-awful. So that's MCS. Number 4, NFR, National Field Representatives. Payment and time. They pay what they're supposed to pay in this industry. So there's no knocks on what they pay. They pay HUD minus 25, and they also match repair-based pricing. So that's what I like. I send you a repair base. You submit the repair base. The repair base comes back. Unfortunately, with NFR, they don't mark the repair base up 25%. So they're going to submit the repair base, and then they're going to take their 25% out of the repair base. It sucks, but I mean, it's kind of a part of the game, and I've just learned to accept that. So they pay what they're supposed to pay, and they do it in a pretty timely manner. I would say at most something's net 30. Generally, for your recurring services, it's within 2 weeks. They do, excuse me. They do pay on time, just like they, say they will. And their payment, like I said, is HUD minus 25, so it's a fair price. Functionality from field to submission. I mean, they suck too. I'm going to be honest with you. I do not like the NFR portal. It's just a lot of questions. And what I don't like is having to create a repair base and then having to go back through and recreate that within their portal. I would much rather just be able to submit the repair base. Which has been a complaint of mine since the very, very beginning. And then, but it's one of them things that you just kind of learn to deal with. It's aggravating. They're very, very particular. So if you're going to work with NFR, then you need to know what you're doing, basically. You're going to be going back and forth a good bit. I mean, I've been working with them a real, real long time, and they still, will put a steel need on something, and I think it's ridiculous. One of the things they ask for a lot, which I cannot stand, is they want 2 separate bids. So, like, this outbuilding is dilapidated, clearly needs to be demolished. You put in a demo bid. Well, in addition to the demo bid, they want a bid to repair it. So it's a little bit aggravating because you know good and well that the bid to repair it's going to be more than the demo bid, and that they're not going to bid to repair it. They're just going to demo it, but you still have to do it, which is a waste of time, and I don't like wasting time. So, I've complained about that for a very, very long time, but it's just one of those type deals. Quantity of work. I would say they have a fair amount of quantity. I mean, they're not no MCS, but they're pretty good. They have a fair amount of quantity. They're not knocking it out of the park by no means, but they do pretty good. They got a pretty good. They have a lot of well stuff too. So I mean, they have a pretty good amount of work. In my area. I'm happy with it. I wouldn't want any more from them, because the process with them and everything else for me is so aggravating that I'm pretty much at my cap with how much I'd like to do for NFR. The onboarding requirements, they require GL. They definitely require auto owners. Or an auto policy. I'm not 100% sure if they require errors and omissions. Seems like they might. But NFR is also one of them companies, if you want to onboard with them and they have vendors in your area, they're not going to send you work unless the vendor in that area is not performing. So if they've got a good vendor in that area and you want to get in that area, it's probably not just going to happen. Now, they will also hire you on kind of like, MCS will, as a secondary type deal. But, if you're secondary to a good vendor, then there's just not a whole lot of scraps left to get. So getting on with them is kind of a pain in the butt as far as the wait time. But from a requirement standpoint, it's pretty standard, and it's pretty quick, as far as getting them the paperwork, them doing what they need to do. The people are from New Hampshire, which, that group of people are generally a little bit rude. I think they're all good people, and I don't think they intentionally mean to be rude. I just think that for whatever reason, people in that part of the country just talk to each other a little different. Took me some getting used to. I'm still not used to it all the time. Sometimes I get a little angry, but I just get over it. It is what it is. But other than that, they're a pretty good company. Like I say, they do everything that they say they're going to do. Their portal's a little cumbersome. They got a decent quantity of work. They pay good and they pay on time. So that's a huge plus, and that's the biggest factor for me. So number 3, y'all are going to think I'm crazy here. VRM, Vendor Resource Management. I like VRM. Most people don't like VRM. I like VRM. You kind of got to learn how to, it's at first, if you just on ground level read their initial services and all this stuff, it's kind of hard to make. You would think it would be impossible to make money working with them. But I have found some different ways to turn a profit with VRM. And I'm happy with them. They're the only company that doesn't really require before and during. They just want afters, which makes it a little bit easier. Their system is very, very easy to use as far as submitting the orders. Quantity of work is, I guess it really just depends on where you live. I live between 2 military bases, so I have a fair amount of VA stuff here. So I get a pretty good amount of work from them. Their onboarding requirements and time, it really didn't take too long, but like I said, I think I sat on the sidelines for a pretty good bit waiting on somebody to get out of it. So I know, like NFR and MCS, they, they're like that. If they have a vendor, then they're not just going to throw you in there to them. But their functionality from field to submission is pretty easy. Their quantity of work, at least for me where I'm at, is pretty good. The onboarding requirements were pretty standard. I don't believe they required errors and omissions, but they definitely required GL and an auto policy. They pay everything they owe you, hands down. And the time really just varies based on when the realtor comes out and does an inspection on whatever it is you done, the work you done, and make sure you done it right. And once he approves it, all that goes through. So it kind of varies, but most of the time it's 3 weeks or less. So VRM, they're a pretty good company across the board as far as I'm concerned. Number 2. This is the most aggravating company, bar none. Guardian Asset Management. I've been with them a long, long time, and they have the potential of being the best. They have the potential of being the best in a lot of different areas of what they do. Now, I think they have more than they can actually do up there, which is why they lean on outsourcing some of their QC stuff and a lot of that, which creates a lot of problems. I think from an inspection standpoint, they just let anybody do it. And I've called up there and complained about it being extremely dangerous, just letting anybody do this stuff. They got a lot of stuff they got to clean up. But here's the deal. They are one of the few remaining companies that you can honestly negotiate prices with. which is the most important thing. And they use Aspen, which I believe is the easiest way to do this, hands down. I wish everybody used Aspen or something similar to Aspen. So they pay, so like if you do work in January, you'll get paid for it at the end of February. And everything you done in February that got approved, not you submitted, but got approved in February, will be paid out in March. They don't miss a beat. If they owe it to you, they're going to pay it to you. And I really, really do like that about them. I don't mind, waiting the 30, 60 days, whatever it is. If you get it submitted on the 1st, it's going to be closer to 60 days, 50 some odd days before you get paid for it. So, but they're very transparent with that. It's not like some secret. So I don't mind waiting. And I enjoy the fact that I don't have to worry about anything. When I get my remittance, everything's gonna check out. It's gonna be correct. And it's been that way ever since I started working with them. So payment and time, I'm happy with. Functionality from field to submission. This part, if their QC department were up to speed on what they need to be doing, would be extremely easy. You go out to the field, you take your photos, you create your bid sheet, you come home, you put that bid sheet into Repair Base, you come up with your price, you upload the Repair Base along with your photos, you put an invoice in there, and you submit it. That's as easy as it gets, in my opinion. The part that makes it complicated with them is they have, some issues with their QC or whatever, who really kick back some things and reject some things that should never be rejected. Wanting a photo that's, clearly in there, just wanting you to do unnecessary stuff. And a lot of the times they're stepping on the toes of the people who's issuing out the work orders, the people who's creating the approvals, the people that you're talking to. But that is an issue that hasn't been as bad as it is right this second forever. It's just kind of something that's come on here in the last, basically this year. And I think it'll blow over. Some great people who work up there. Some of them folks, I've been dealing with for a long time. So I really do like Guardian. Their onboarding requirements, to be honest, I'm not even sure they have any requirements. I think they're probably the easiest company to onboard with there is. You pass a background check, you haven't murdered anybody or got caught trafficking drugs across the Mexican border, I think you're pretty good with them. So quantity of work, they have a fair amount, but one of the problems with Guardian is although they have a lot of work, they have low onboarding requirements, which means they have 1,000 different vendors. Now, most of the people who's been there for a while knows which vendors not to use, so you end up getting a good amount of work anyway. But it is a little bit aggravating when you get sent to a property to fix a bunch of stuff that somebody else, screwed up. So that's one of the downsides of having low onboarding requirements is you have a whole bunch of people who aren't really in this to make a career out of it. They're just kind of in it to try to hit a little quick lick because, them and their buddies was chit-chatting down and one of them seen something on Craigslist and they heard some rumors and they think it's something that it's not. And you get a lot of people like that in this. So their onboarding requirements are minimal. Their quantity of work is pretty good. Functionality from field to submission is great, minus their QC team and payment and the time that you get paid. Takes a little while to get paid, but payment's, always what it's supposed to be. And you can count on it coming at the end of every month. So, number 1. BKM, Brookstone Management. This, to me, personally, they are the gold standard of this industry. One of the main reasons I know they're the gold standard of this industry is because, and I only know based on my experience, but I am almost certain they have the highest retention rate for their employees up there, which means that they're doing the right thing up there. When you call, you get somebody on the phone who really knows what they're talking about. I enjoyed Brookstone. I've enjoyed working with them from the beginning. They have offered up a tremendous amount of help for me. There's been some people who work there that really kind of help tug me along and show me the way. And they have their payment in time. They pay recurring services every 2 weeks. And I would say everything else is 4 weeks or less, with the exception of something that goes into client approval. So basically, you were supposed to remove 20 cubic yards per your approval, but you really ended up moving 30, and you're asking to be paid for that additional 10. It goes into client approval. So they're basically just waiting to see if, they're going to get paid for it before they pay you out, which I'm perfectly fine for. They can sit there for, however long it takes, as long as it ends up in my favor, which in most cases it does. They will, they'll go to bat for their vendors. They really will. They're probably they're probably, from a common sense standpoint, the best for sure. But payment, just like, and I forgot to mention this with Guardian, but Brookstone, Guardian, both are HUD minus 25. The only bad thing about Brookstone is their grass cut prices. They're not all HUD minus 25. They kind of combined some of their smaller ones. I think from 10 to 20, and then from 20 to 30, and 30 to 40, they'll like lump them in. They all basically pay the same. So the worst is when you've got a 19,000 square foot lot that you're having to cut for the same price that you would cut a 10,100 square foot lot. So grass cut prices, their inspection prices are low, but with the exception of those two, everything else is good. But the reason that it's easy to tolerate their reoccurring services being a little lower than everyone else's is because they do a phenomenal job at getting what you send to them approved, which is the key thing in this industry, to me anyway. So they pay good, minus some recurring services just a little bit. They pay on time. Functionality from field to submission, they are the best. You take the repair base, you upload it, or you just upload your bid sheet and they'll run it in a repair base for you. If they have any questions, they'll call you on the phone. Really, really simple. They'll put it together, they'll submit it, and then if they're looking through your pictures and they see something that you skipped, they'll add it to your approval, get it approved, boom, boom, boom. Quantity of work in my area, it used to be a ton. It used to be a lot. It really did. I just think we've done everything. I mean, there's not it's not near as busy as it was, several years ago, but it's still plenty. So quantity of work is okay. Functionality from field to submission is great. Payment and time is great. Onboarding requirements and time, their onboarding requirements, I'm pretty sure it's just general liability and auto policy. I'm not sure. I don't think it takes a lot of time. It's been a long time since I've onboarded with any of these people. But I don't think it takes a lot of time to onboard with. But, if you ask me on any given day to rank these, and these are the ones that I've personally done business with, this would be the way that I ranked them. And this is based purely off, off of experience. And obviously, my opinion. To me, it's not so much the time that you get paid in, it's just the amount you get paid per thing that you're doing. Which honestly is what separates the top four from all the rest of them. I mean, if you went in order, you could take the top four and separate them, because you're going to make a lot more money with them than you will any of the bottom five. And I mean, that's and it's not even close. I mean, there's probably and I'm not even being sarcastic, there's probably a 25% profit difference between the bottom, minimum 25% between the bottom five and the top four. But the top four, they all have one thing in common. They've got, good people who work up there. They have expectations, and you're going to have to meet those expectations. And if you don't want to meet the expectations, you won't be doing business with them long. So, I don't know where you are in your business or how much time you have to commit to this or how much overhead you already have or how much money you need to be making tomorrow. But those are all things that you certainly want to take into consideration before you jump into this industry. This is the type deal where you jump into it and you spend a lot of money today to get just a little bit more money back in a couple weeks. And you have to do that for a pretty good amount of time before you can kind of get to rolling. Anybody can reach out to me anytime and ask me any questions. If you have any questions, I know a lot of this stuff I just had to, just kind of learn the hard way, to be honest with you. But this is them. I mean, this is the ones that in my area. Now, other people have. I mean, there's Five Brothers. There's There's several different other companies out there that I don't work for. That I'm sure many people work for that could probably go on this list, and some may even be number one or in the top four and bump some of these other ones out. But I don't have any experience with them, so I didn't want to list them. This is strictly the ones that I've done work for, and I really hope this helped. I hope it wasn't a waste of your time, and I hope I didn't ramble too much. I am extremely tired. So if anybody does have any questions, you can just reach out to me in the comment section. At some point, we're going to put my email or something in the description so you guys can reach out to me if you have any questions. Because like I say, my goal is to make everybody better. Because if the better we are as a whole, the better the industry is, the more money there is in this industry. So that's kind of my goal. If you need anything, reach out to me. I hope this video helped. You guys take care.